What's going on, everybody? D-Style Boxing here. Thanks to those joining me live, to those that be joining me on archive. Shout out to everybody listening from Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, all the works listening on the audio form. We appreciate you guys tuning in, especially the Spotify network. This is, of course, Aftermath. Okay, thank you guys again for tuning in. Once again, be joined by Mario Munguia from Men Fighting Podcast, and also TBH 206, aka The Boxing Historian 206. Check his channel out. Same name here on YouTube. We'll be joined by Calix in the second hour, and I do believe somebody else, but I won't say the name unless they come on. All that good stuff, right? First of all, SSC, the chat, how's it going? Boxing for Pete Jack. All you guys, man. Manuel Marrero. All right, how's it going, brother? He says, Wepa! Let's go. All right. El Chido Boxing. Saludos, Raza. Okay, there we go. Manny Marrero. If you want to come on, DM me on Twitter, and I'll send you a link, brother. El Chido, that's A-Rod. You know, his secret identity that I always give out. You know what I mean? Hey, Mario Munguia. Did you watch the fight? Did you watch the so-called fight? The execution of Dillian Whyte.
Of course. It wasn't my first afternoon UK pay-per-view show, and I'm pretty sure it won't be my last. Definitely caught it. But yeah, it was more exciting on Twitter than it was in the ring. I'll be honest. You know, it was fun talking shit with everybody on Saturday, and you know, it was great. Like, I felt like it brought, like, the vibe was so much better than I anticipated it, you know, and I guess White rubs people the wrong way, whatever. But I saw it, and it was a huge letdown, I guess, is all I'm going to say.
Man. All right, Chief Funky, stopping by to hit that like button. All right, shout out to Chief Funky. And all that good stuff. Check it out, man. Check this out. I want to ask you this, though. Like what? Where does White go from here? I mean, where does it go from here?
Yeah, listen, I think that okay, I have a couple of problems. First of all, I want to admit right off the bat that I'm not gonna say a good friend, like we're not friends, but Xavier Miller is a person who I respect a lot. He's a person I've gotten to interview over the years. He's a person that I've gotten to know, and to a degree, I guess, certainly as a trainer and as a professional. And I wanted nothing more than for the night to end with people to at least say, like, White belonged there at the show. You know, that team belonged there at the show. I know Xavier's going to coach a world champion one day. I know he's going to be a huge part of this sport. But what happened with White on Saturday, there's nowhere to go. Like, you put yourself in a Blair Cobb situation over the past 5-6 years, and then just royally shit the bed. And, you know, the thing that's so kind of fucked up about things, because I like White. I've always liked White. But, you know, for him to say to, I think yesterday or maybe this morning, something like, to the degree, like, the fight wasn't, you know, a mismatch, it was close. Like, no, it wasn't. It was never close. And the numbers certainly support that, okay? Total punches, just real quick. Second round, 37% for Fury, 19 for White. Third round, 43% for Fury, 14 for White. 30% fourth round for Fury, 19 for White. It goes on and on. I mean, it gets a little closer after that. But it was just not anywhere close to a fun fight. And in no way does anybody want to come and see White based off of that performance.
Well, there you go. TBH. Talk to us. What did you think of the performance, brother?
When I thought I saw this past Saturday, to be honest with you, was very cringeworthy for heavyweight boxing. You know, and I gotta just call it what it is. I mean, yes, good win for Tyson Fury. Not knocking his win. He looked good. He looked like he was money in the fight. But all in all, even the fact that he was in a fight with such an overmatched opponent in Dillian Whyte, who was another UK hype job, who came box to save his life. I mean, Wilder as much as he can't box, he boxes at least twice as better than fucking Dillian Whyte. All right. This man did not go to the body not one time. He did not try to pressure Tyson Fury. He was throwing shots you could see from 5 miles away that even a slug could avoid, a sloth could avoid. You understand? And it was just easy pickings for Tyson Fury for like a good 5 rounds. And it looked horrible. I mean, this guy was, and then he gassed out in the 5th round, you know, like he always does. He always gas out. And Fury whooped the dog shit out of him. And, you know, credit to Fury for doing that. But I believe that it just was a sloppy heavyweight bout. And Fury, he looked good, but it's how much did he look good against someone who was crap in the fight? Crap can make low pH water.
So it seems like a prime Ric Flair. He was able to wrestle a broomstick and make it work, right?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. You know, it's just it was disgusting to watch. But,
so I'm gonna take a wild guess, and you never want to see Whyte again. I'm just taking it's a wild guess.
Look, man, Whyte ain't shit, bro. I ain't trying to see that guy fight again.
I would love to see him fight Wilder. I mean, we're not tripping, right? Like they both I'm not trying to like discredit anybody. I'm not trying to say like they're at the same level after their last 2 losses. Not at all. One of these guys took Fury to the end of his everything. And the other guy, I mean, took us to the edge of sleeping. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that they're in the same. I'm just saying, like, it makes sense. They both lost. Like, let's see them fight each other. Like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, for everybody that's so down on Whyte and as you know, and there's same people that are kind of down on Wilder too. This is like the perfect answer. At least that's the way I see it.
Well said. Like, here's my kind of thoughts about. First of all, I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised. And I got to tell you, like, it's. I never thought much of Whyte. Now we're going to we're going to connect it a little more when we get to the Wilder topic, but so we're going to get there. But I got to tell you, man, Dillian Whyte just looked outclassed in there, like he didn't belong in the ring with Fury. That's how it looked like to me. Fury didn't look like he brought it to 2nd or 3rd gear. He was kind of just going through the motions. He was kind of just, you know, hit him with a couple short hooks here and there, a couple right hands, and he was just waiting for that moment. And the moment came. He ducked low, hit him with a nice, beautiful uppercut, hurt him. He went down like a sack of potatoes. He went down. And I knew it was over the moment he hit the canvas. And I got to tell you right now that a lot of individuals out here overrated Dillian Whyte. And you did it out of emotion, in my opinion. You overrated him due to emotion. We're going to touch on that. But first, let's see if we can talk about Fury a little bit first before we get to that. Tyson Fury goes out there, obviously beats Dillian Whyte. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're looking at the best heavyweight in the world today. Like that 266, he's that perfect hybrid of, I mean, this is a guy who learned how to box in a way that he shouldn't have learned, but he did, and he became really good at it, like boxing on the outside, jabbing, using defensive postures and maneuvering and slipping and sliding, all that good stuff. And then he, with Sugar Hill, picked up the Kronk style a little more, although he had some history with the Kronk, but he really picked it up, which is a style he should have had all along, that he's a natural at, but he also knows this other style. And now he's dropped over 10 pounds is what he weighed in the Wilder fights. And now he has this hybrid style, right? Now he's this hybrid of a man that boxes on the outside, uses his jab, uses head movement, but he also comes forward. He also fights on the inside. He also gets ugly. He holds you on the inside. He pushes you against the ropes. You know what I mean? He pushes your head down, gets you in headlocks. You know, he flicks a jab from the outside, but he also comes in and throws a power jab on the inside. You know, he's shown a much better hook under Hill, in my opinion. I don't think any heavyweight on the planet right now can beat him. Like, at all. I don't think any man alive could put on a pair of boxing gloves and beat this man in a boxing match. That's heavyweight, cruiserweight, light heavyweight, flyweight. Okay, a whole everything. There ain't a dude on this planet that could beat him. What do you think, historian? You think there's anybody on the planet right now that can beat Tyson Fury?
Yes.
All right, talk to us. Talk. Who could beat Tyson Fury? Talk to us.
I got one guy, if he's healthy, that will beat the dog shit out of Tyson Fury and make him look ordinary.
Whoa.
Say his name. Who's this man you speak of? Say his name.
Alexander Usyk.
Come on. Now, before we continue, I was with you until I've seen this hybrid style manifest. I was with you. But I've kind of changed my mind. But hey, I mean, talk to us.
Has he improved under his new tutelage? Yes, he has. Has he improved his power game in terms of sitting on his punches and generating a whole lot more leverage and turning over his feet with his punches to generate more power? Yes, he has. Has he developed a better jab than what he's done in the last 5 years? Yes, he has. Here's the problem, though. It's easy to box a guy that can't box slow, flat-footed, uncoordinated cats like Wilder and Dillian Whyte and some of the other guys he's boxed before, like Thomas. What's his name? What's his name? Kawanaki or someone like that, or my bad, Schwartz or whatever. It's easy to box those type of guys, but we saw when he fights someone like, I don't know, Ottawa Lean, Steve Cunningham, who can actually box in the heavyweight division. They gave him problems. Usyk, on the other hand, is a prototype heavyweight, and what I mean is the type of heavyweight that I'm used to seeing from the 90s. From the early 2000s, that can actually box and put their punches together and move and can generate power.
I like that nickname, the prototype. They should call him that.
Yeah, that's exactly what he is. I mean, people try to compare him to the Matrix, right? Well, he's going to look like the Matrix against Fury. Fury, he's fast for his size, but he's not really he's fast for his size, and he looks faster than what is being displayed before our eyes. And what I'm saying is he looks fast against guys like a Dillian Whyte or a Wilder who are not particularly quick with their feet. If he fights a prototypical heavyweight like Alexander Usyk, he actually would look very normal in terms of his speed. And I think that Usyk in general, boxing ability and his acumen is going to make Fury look stupid. And it'll be competitive slightly because of his size, but overall the skill set and the footwork and what Alexander Usyk will bring, especially him going to the body with against Fury, because that's one area none of these heavyweights have really exposed, is the fact that body is just literally right there, and there's nothing he can do about it because he's 6'9", which is a trade-off from the reach and the height. Usyk's gonna expose all that shit. I mean, look, Fury's good, but he's not great. And Usyk will beat the dog shit. I'm telling you, you heard it here first. He's going to beat the dog shit out of Tyson Fury.
Man.
If he ever, and that's the reason why he's talking about retiring and doing all this other goofy shit, because if this was AJ, another slow, flat-footed cat that can be touched, you know what I'm saying? And who can get dropped, all right? Which has been shown many times. His energy would have changed and like, oh yeah, I want to fight AJ. And it's not just because of the prestige and the money in the UK. Yeah, it is that. But if it was Usyk, who has all three belts right now, and there was no rematch clause for the AJ fight, he would not want to fight that dude. I'm telling you right now.
Right, Munguia.
Yeah,
Mario.
I here's the thing. If you want to ask me, who I think the more impressive guy is, who I think, deserves to be higher on the pound for pound list, who's done more and been more like impressive. Yeah, Usyk, agreed. I think that what he does in the ring is a near version of perfect of what he's trying to execute. Okay. And the fact that he's gone up to heavyweight and done what he's done, I mean, you're right. Like the big thing Fury has is the size, and it's not like he worked hard for it. You know what I mean? Maybe worked hard to lose some of it, but I can't see Usyk, despite how good he is, and despite that he might even be better pound for pound, getting around that size advantage with Fury. Because I think you're right. It's one thing to do it with AJ, but it's another to do it with Fury. And what he executed on Saturday night, I mean, D said it the best, dude. What we saw, like that was, and you know who else said it? Cliff Rold said it on Twitter earlier today, I think, or maybe yesterday. He said something like, what we're seeing is a guy who would beat mostly or a lot of guys in the top of the top all throughout eras. Would he be the absolute best? Would he beat everyone? Maybe not. But we're talking about a guy who is going to go down as one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, and he's making it look not easy. That's a strong word, but essentially he's just accomplished every task set forth. And I mean, I don't know. I think he's unbeatable. I think that D said that the best. He's unbeatable right now.
You touched on it, so let's just go there. Where do we put Tyson Fury all time? I have my thoughts, and I'll bounce it back to you, Mario. Where do you think he stands all time with I'm talking all time, every decade?
Yeah, right now, all time. I mean, he's got to be outside the top 25 for sure, maybe within the top 50. But hear me out though. It's not that right now as he's fighting is where we should rank him, right? But there is so much room to accomplish something in his career that skyrockets him into that top 20 list. If he unifies the belts, if he beats the AJ Usyk winner, like if he were to go through this era and dominate and come out on the other side with no blemish on his resume, you got to think it surpasses what the Klitschko's did. It has to. But right now, as it stands, despite the fact that I think Fury's beaten a lot of better heavyweights than the Klitschko's ever beat, how could you rank him over those guys right now, this second? Those guys dominated a division, okay? If Fury were to do that, dominate this division, this era right now, he passes the Klitschko's because this era is better than the era they performed in.
I put a poll up. If you guys want to go ahead and vote on that poll and let us know how you feel. Brian, where does Klitschko stand all time? I mean all time.
You mean Fury?
Tyson Fury, yes. So what did I say? Did I say Fury?
You said Klitschko.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, my bad. But Tyson Fury, where does he stand all time?
I mean, top 50 all time. I guess. I mean,
I guess so. Top 50.
His top. I mean, his best win is against Vladimir Klitschko, who wasn't in his prime, but top guy. Great, really good win. Wilder is a solid win. Steve Cunningham, who never won a belt at heavyweight. Great cruiser. That's a good win. Chisora, decent win. I mean, if I was to really put where he would be, he's probably going to be outside the top 50, and because I mean,
outside the top 50, not inside.
I mean, if he was to become undisputed champion and beat someone like Usyk, because AJ ain't beating Usyk. If he was to do that, then that would be a very good win, and that would put him in the top 50. But as far as he's just outside top 50. He might be 60 or 70. I just don't see what he does as a fighter, what he brings to the table as a fighter, skill set wise. And I don't see what he brings resume wise that competes with even some of the second or tier guys that we've seen in times past. Is he better than most of the guys that the Klitschko's beat resume wise? Yeah. But I think he's just as talented as the guys that he, like the Chris Birds of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like the Sam Peters of the world. I think that he's just as talented as those guys. All right. I think he is.
I mean, I put him above Sam Peters for sure, but I hear you.
I want to make it clear. I do have him in the top 50. I know I said maybe in the top, but I want to make it clear. Me personally, I think he is a top 50 all-time great heavyweight right now. To put him against some of the other guys that would make him top 10, even top 20, it's just tough because, as you said, like you go down the resume and you start playing this game with who's better than who and who means who. Like, unify the division, become undisputed, and then there is no question about who you beat, when you beat, whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's mainly what I'm trying to express how I feel. Like, he has room to end up in the top 10, top 20 list of all time if he were to finish off this run. You know, I don't think he's retired, so we'll see.
Okay, so all I gotta say is this. I think both y'all being harsh. Like I think top 50 out or in the club is still like, I think he's easily top like 15. 1-5.
Right now?
Yes. Now, granted, I'm basing it off of, and maybe because you guys just focusing on the accomplishments, but like we also got to take into account like head to head, like who would win in the boxing.
Oh, that's a different question, though. That's a different question, D.
Well, I'm just saying I personally count that because that matters a little bit.
Then he beats everybody.
Does he? I don't know about that.
Dude,
but
he's a giant. Dude, let me tell you, your favorite, I'm sorry, real quick, historian. I'm going to direct this at you because you're a historian. Every one of your top heavyweights loses to this man because they're all fucking super middleweights and light heavyweights. That's it. Like, come on. I'm not saying, again, pound for pound. Like, that's what the question I'm asking. Like, accomplishment.
Okay, well, let me do this. Let me do this. So that's where I have them, and people can keep voting on the poll. And whatever your criteria is, please let us know in the chat so we kind of know what you're based at. That's why the criteria is really important, right? He has a ways to go, accomplishment-wise. He has a ways to go for guys of their era, right? They're like he has a way to go for Joe Louis. He has a ways to go for even Vladimir Klitschko. He has a ways to go for Vitaly. He has a ways to go for Ali for sure, right? I don't think he'll ever catch up to those guys. He's running out of time every day, right? But I'm just telling you what I factored in. So let's talk about that because I keep hearing that head to head. Oh, he's a giant. He's big, and he is, right? Look, Fury's no Primo Carnera. All right, let me just put that out there. And like Primo was big, he was strong. He had a pretty decent jab, actually. I think he gets too much flack for not being skilled, but he was okay. But he wasn't Fury, right? And Fury's bigger than Primo Carnera. All right, and so I give him credit for what he's able to do and all that in the ring. But I gotta tell you guys, like when I see. Have you ever seen that video of a new episode or whatever it's called with Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and all them? And it's like in slow motion. You know what I mean? Like, dun, dun, dun,
yeah.
And the strippers like in the pole, like slow motion and stuff. And they're like smoking weed in slow motion. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's how Fury and Wilder looked in the third fight compared to Muhammad Ali. Like they looked in slow, new episode. Like speaking of Aftermath, right? The millennia of Aftermath, like they looks really in slow motion compared to Muhammad Ali, compared to Holmes. Dude, slow. The footwork is slow. The footwork is nowhere near at that level. It just isn't. The only thing Fury fans could point at is his size. That's their only save because they can tell me he has a better jab. They can't tell me he has better combinations. They can't tell me he's faster and more skilled. All they got is a size. Oh, but he's 6'9", though. I mean, that's pretty big, which is true, right? And of course he would have a chance at beating anybody. A chance, no doubt. I do think he would be too big for the heavyweights of the early century. Like you know what I mean? He just would, right? I do believe he would be too big for those guys. But once you hit the 70s, once you hit the 80s and the 90s, I don't know, man. Like I just that's just my opinion. I don't think you could fuck with Ali. And I keep hearing this, but the size. And the reason is he's too slow for Ali. Like I'm just keeping it on it. He's just too slow for me. Ali is around the same frame as Usyk. Around the same height. Same size, everything. But faster. Ali was a heavyweight that moved like a middleweight. You know? And I look at his footwork, and I'm not saying I would count out Fury, but I mean, just too fast. Blazing footwork, blistering hand speed. Before, like, what would Ali do to Dillian Whyte? A stationary target who crosses his feet every 2 minutes, and Dillian Whyte, what do you think he would do to Dillian Whyte? He would embarrass Dillian. Dillian Whyte wouldn't lay a glove on Ali, right? Those punches that Fury got hit by, like to the body by Whyte, Ali would laugh at that, bro. Like, he would say, like, what the fuck, you got hit by this dude? This dude hit you? Come on, like, you got hit by Dillian Whyte, he hit you. He tagged you a couple times. Otto Wallin was putting hands on Fury. Cut Fury. Ali was like that, knew how to turn his punches, cut guys, and all that. You don't think he would do the same thing? You don't think he could do what Otto Wallin did? That's my opinion, right? But I'll let you respond, Mario.
Yeah, God, I don't want this. I don't want my answer to give off a different vibe than how I actually feel, because there is no question in my mind that Ali is the better fighter when we're talking Ali Fury. There's no question in my mind that Ali is much, much, much more accomplished at this point, because, you know, like, just plain and simple, where are Fury's Joe Frazier's? Where are his, you know, his Foreman's? Like, where are those wins? You know, if that's Wilder, if you're telling me that his win is Wilder, but Ali had to beat a Joe Frazier, like, that's not a fair comparison. But again, to me, it comes down to size. Look, I'm going to make the most casual, basic, bitch ass not argument, but point. Okay. And this is just how I feel. And I know this is not a great metaphor. It's all I can think of right now. Logan Paul is not even close to a great professional boxer. Not at all. Okay. He would lose to anybody within the top 15 in the cruiserweight right now. It's the truth. It's not even close. Mayweather could be one of the greatest of all time.
Frog splash.
He has a great frog splash for sure. He could beat Fury maybe in WWE, but that's it. Okay. He loses to all these guys. Okay. But the fact that he went the distance with one of the greatest fighters in the history of boxing and the greatest fighter of this era, that shows you how important size is in a fight.
Size matters.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Size matters. And it can take a guy who doesn't even belong in the ring with Floyd and allow him to come out of it, you know, feeling like he won, like it was a joke. But ultimately, Floyd, if they're the same size, he stops him in a round or two, maybe 3 at the most, you know, and that's the, you know, your casual bitch ass point of the day.
By the way, most had around the top 25, probably just going by accomplishments. Historian. Like, how do you think? How do you think he would do against like Ali, Holmes, like that level of heavyweight?
Man,
all time.
Look, you know, I just drank I just drank Casamigos, man. You know, and I'm doing, and we're talking about like, you know, what I love was the heavyweight division, the big dogs, man. So I'm gonna get a little passionate, and I'm a little fired up on it. Listen. Respect your opinion, Mario. Respect to your opinion, D style, man. Listen, Tyson Fury is a good heavyweight. He is not great. Size does mean something. It either means two things, and I've always utilized this, you know, psychology when it comes to fighting in general, whether it be boxing or whatever discipline you can think of. Either you're a big fucking problem or you're a big fucking target. Because we've lost certain art forms in boxing over the past generations. Every trainer has talked about it. That every trainer that I've dealt with, or any other person has dealt with, can tell you that every generation has lost a certain technique, a certain understanding, and a certain psychology of boxing from yesteryear that they don't display today. Fury has not once in his time have fought a true inside fighter in boxing, which is the counter to a guy with a long reach and a long size. When you have a long reach and you have that height, there's an advantage to it if you can stick to the outside. But if once the guy that's that much shorter, we're talking about 5'11", 6 foot, 5'10", we're talking about David too. We're talking about Marciano. We're talking about Frazier. We're talking about Mike Tyson. We're talking about those type of guys, right? Even a Jerry Corey, guys like that. The advantage is for a shorter guy to be on the inside of that reach where you can't the tall guy can't generate the leverage. The tall guy can't utilize his jab like that because the guy's like literally right in his chest, banging away at the body. You don't see that in today's boxing. Fury has never experienced that in today's era. He's not experienced the level of footwork and mobility of the heavyweights from yesteryear, because all of those guys, even the slower guys like Sonny Liston, George Foreman, their powerhouses could actually move. They move exactly the same like Fury does. If we look on camera, the height and reach can be valuable, but back then, even guys that were like 190 something pounds fighting at heavyweight, and mind you, like Jack Johnson, Jim Jeffries, they were in excess of 200 pounds. I guess like in, of course, in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, you saw guys that were like just right there at 200 or 210 or 118 or 188, 190, whatnot, and what have you. But what I'm saying is, back then it didn't really matter because you had guys like that, like the Primo Caneras of the world, who actually weighed even heavier than Tyson Fury did, he weighed at 185 pounds. Fury weighs at like 270, 285 pounds, 270, 260. You understand? Of course, Fury's like 6'9", he's 6'6".
Right.
But it didn't matter back then because of the level of skill and the level of footwork and the level, like a lot of those guys, the way they were on their toes, a lot of them look like ballerinas in the ring. And I'm just going back, talking about the footwork. A lot of that art form is lost, and I think we look at the aesthetically pleasing things, the reach and the height, the size. Oh, look how much bigger he is. Guess what? There's a trade-off between that versus someone fighting someone with a higher level of skill. And the fact that we don't see these high-level skilled heavyweights today, and we're just seeing these big 6'7" guys who really can't box, to save their life. Like, like I'm just saying, like guys from those generations that actually watched them, like they come to me, and they be like, man, Fury, he ain't shit, man. He big, but he ain't shit.
Well, let me get in here. So check it out, okay? Because I hear this argument a lot, right?
Yeah.
Oh, these guys are stuck in nostalgia. It's all nostalgia. You think these guys are better than they really were? Like, no, bro. Like, heavyweight boxing has not evolved, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it hasn't gotten better over time. Stop acting like Pulev is like this generation's like he could fuck with shavers or some shit. Okay. Stop acting like Andy Ruiz could fuck with the Mike Tyson. Okay, stop acting like freaking Dillian Whyte could lay a glove on a fucking Muhammad Ali, and stop acting like any of these. I'm not mentioning the top names. I'm doing that on purpose, right? Like I'm just giving you guys some perspective. You wouldn't pick any of these other dudes to beat those guys, but the guys at the top of the crop, all of a sudden, it's all nostalgia, right? Who in your right mind, and if you have the balls, just say it, would pick Dillian Whyte to beat Muhammad Ali? Who in their right mind? Before we start talking about levels, right? If any of you feel Dillian Whyte could beat up Muhammad Ali, put it in the chat. Oh, but why are you asking that? Well, I'm asking for an obvious reason, right? Obviously, comparing Ali to Tyson Fury isn't that far off to you, even. You know what I mean? Shout out to Man and Water, great trio, even though I disagree with some points. Hey, that's why we're here. You know what I mean? But
Just
so
tell
why am I
boxing story
saying
if you
that?
want to.
But we have people saying that he wouldn't even lay a glove. I'm not talking about win. I wouldn't even ask that question. Who would win? Like Muhammad Ali or Dillian? I wouldn't even ask that question. I'm asking if he would lay a glove on Ali. All right? That's all I'm at. Even if he laid a glove on him, doesn't mean he would win. Right? It's not nostalgia. Maybe Ali just was that good. Maybe he was that dude. Right? Maybe he was from a golden era where boxing was the number one fucking sport in America and in the world. It was a popular sport, and a lot of great athletes, okay, were in the sport of boxing, and there were heavyweights. All the great heavyweights are playing football right now. They're playing basketball. They're not boxing. The sons of some of these heavyweights are playing in the NFL. We're talking about a different level of athlete. Who has Tyson Fury fought? Let's keep it real. This is not a strong era. This is a fucking halo effect. He fought a stationary target. A dude that's easy to get hit. Come on, you know he is. Stop. Stop acting like dude ain't slow. Props to Fury. He exposed him for being slow. He methodically pieced him apart. And he knocked him out with ease. Dominated him the way he should. If he is that dude, he should destroy Whyte that way. All right? But that's who he's fighting. He's not fighting these dudes that are these unbelievable fighters. He just isn't. Wilder picked up the sport of boxing in his, early 20s, late teens? He was a basketball player, and he got injured. He had an injury. He couldn't play basketball no more or some shit. Wanted to, and it's a good story. He wanted to make some money for his daughter, all right? And he did. Props to him. But that's who he is. AJ picked up the sport late. These are the heavyweights of today. Pulev's a top 10 heavyweight. Well, what, I'm supposed to think everything of Pulev because he knocked out Mir in a hybrid fight or some shit? I'm telling you guys right now, it's not nostalgia. Every generation does this, okay? The top, I was dealing with Vladimir Klitschko fans saying he could fuck up Larry Holmes and all this other shit. Oh, he's just too big and strong and this and that. And all I'm saying, every generation, Fury in 2-3 generations, he'll be another heavyweight on top, and you guys are going to be like, ain't nobody going to be talking about Fury this way. It's my opinion, okay? Like, all I'm saying is this. You're not crazy for thinking, and this goes for Mario, you're not crazy if you think Fury has a chance against the all-time greats because he is 6'9". He is a big, strong dude. It doesn't make you crazy. However, I'm not nostalgic because I think, and Mario didn't say this, but I'm not being nostalgic because I recognize the greatness of the all-time greats. These are the guys that made this sport. All that shit that this motherfucker learned at the Kronk, those legends made that shit. They were the ones in the trial and error period that had to go through that dark space to figure out these things and make sure and learn these things and craft these things. So no, it's not it's not being nostalgic or anything like that. These are the guys that made the art that we know. Fury went to a boxing gym and was taught how to throw a jab because motherfuckers already developed how to throw a fucking jab. He went to a boxing gym and learned how to throw a hook, and he actually was a late bloomer with a hook. It took him forever to throw a proper hook, right? Because of what the legends did. That is not nostalgia. That's just reality. That's what that is. But go ahead, historian. I know you wanted to say something.
Oh no. I was just gonna say, I mean, I don't even know if he's really stronger because we know that per weight, you know what I'm saying? Okay, he's 260 or 70 pounds, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's stronger than the guy that's 215 pounds or even a guy that's 190 pounds.
Well, we already know a 225-pound man dropped him twice.
That's what I'm saying. You know, in my whole thing is I look at some of the guys because a lot of the talking points with the Klitschko brothers, people were saying that, oh, well, Tyson wouldn't be able to beat them because they can box and they can jab. And they're so long and so big, which is the reason why we have these tall heavyweights, because they try to counteract the Klitschko's, and the Klitschko started this trend of tall heavyweights in an era, and that happened. And really the prototypical guy that they try to do, trying to bring somebody out the quarter from the football field, was Michael Grant. You know what I'm saying? He was really the first Deontay Wilder before Deontay Wilder. He couldn't beat Lennox Lewis, you know. But thing is, the Klitschko's fought a lot of different styles of boxers back then that in the heavyweight division that don't exist in today's heavyweight division. You don't have too many variety of styles or even sizes of different heavyweights today that can counteract a particular style. You know what I'm saying? And I think that Fury, when you look at the wins that he has and the guys that he struggled with, I mean, I don't want to lean. I like him. I like Steve Cunningham when he was boxing at cruiserweight. But those guys, I mean, like when I look at the guys that the Klitschko's fought, like Bird, Brewster, Peters, Johnson, Chambers, all those guys, even the old Tommy Morrison and David Tua, those guys are better than the guys that Fury's fighting now. They are on average. And if we want to go back to those eras, if we were to go back in time, right? Let's say if we take Marciano, who weighed 195 pounds, and this is another aspect to it that people are not looking at. Put him in today's time where you have all the human growth hormones and all the foods that people have been eating for as much as they have, and guys getting bigger. He would easily be 6'1". He would have a little bit longer reach, and he probably would weigh 220 pounds, rock solid. Same with some of them other guys like Floyd Patterson, and other guys that was fighting back then. If you take Fury back from this time, put him in that era, there's a good chance that he's not 6'9", he's 6'7". It's a good chance that he's not 265 pounds, he's 230 pounds. Instead of an 85-inch reach, he has an 83 or 84-inch reach. Those are variables we also have to look at as well. And if we were just to match some of these guys up, I just think that, man, Fury, I mean, he looks better. He looked better than the rest of the guys that are here today. I think he's good. And I think that he's as good as some of the mid-tier guys in the heavyweight division from the 90s and the 2000s, but I don't think he's the very best of even that generation.
This is what I feel, and I'll let Mario chime in after this, but at the end of the day, like when I look at the landscape, and maybe it's unfair to Tyson Fury that there isn't this deep division like there was in the 90s and all that, right? All I know is this. The reason the Usyk fight, and I saw like Man of Water mentioned a little bit ago, is very intriguing. It's because he's 6'3". They call him a small heavyweight. They say he's too small, right? Even though he just beat Joshua, for God's sakes, and they're calling him too small, right? Because I think even if Usyk gives him a hell of a fight, even if Fury comes out on top, but he gives him a good fight, it's gonna dispel a lot of these narratives that he's just too big for these guys, right? Now, I said from the beginning that the guys from the tail end of the century, when they were like 185 pounds, yes, those guys are too small for Fury. Those would have been cruiserweights today, right? So no doubt. But Usyk's a guy that started at cruiserweight, and he's starting to fill in, and he's already like 225. It's not like he's nowhere near the 200 mark. He's not Cunningham, ladies and gentlemen. He's not weighing 202 pounds. 225 pounds of muscle is Usyk, right? And I think that is a fight that could answer a lot of questions. It would. It's my opinion, but go ahead, Mario.
Yeah, look, I just want to remind everybody. I just want to end on a positive note, right? Like, everybody was down about the Klitschko era. And towards the end of the Klitschko era, before it ended, but when it was kind of on its last run, we started seeing those heavyweights like Deontay Wilder and Seth Mitchell and Bryant Jennings, guys who were natural athletes and but had never boxed, and they picked it up. And these were three of America's like greatest hopes at the time. And think of where we are now, how much better off we are from that HBO heavyweight division and where we're headed now. And the guys behind, Hergovich, Jared Anderson, there are guys that could take this division even further. So even before we start playing like where these guys end up, you have to remember that the heavyweight division is only starting to recover. It's only starting to be resuscitated back to life. And people only started caring about it again, 4 years ago, maybe? And so I just don't want to get lost on the understanding that this is headed in a positive direction. Before, we didn't have Furies and AJs and even Wilders or Whites. Like, we didn't have any of that stuff before. We had one name dominating and us desperately trying to find somebody who could test these guys. This is not the era of heavyweight we're going to be experiencing over the next decade at all.
Calix Boxing, talk to us. Where does Fury stand all time, in your opinion? And that's accomplishment wise. And where do you put him head to head with the all time greats? Like in a mano fight.
Let's first solidify, and we've talked about this, D-Style. There's a difference between better and greater, correct?
Right. Sure.
Better and greater. So that's what makes Fury interesting. And this is what's unique about the heavyweight division. We're comparing and contrasting guys who are much different in size. Like this era, these guys are much bigger than guys from previous eras. What makes Fury unique specifically is not only is he a bigger guy, he's a bigger guy with a great chin. And he's also a bigger guy with a great chin who can fight off the back foot. He can fight off the front foot. He can morph and evolve into whatever he needs to be for that specific night. That's what he's shown throughout his career.
He's hybrid now. He's hybrid, yeah.
So what you say about Fury is when we talk about who's better between specific fighters, Fury, what makes him interesting is when you start to talk about fighters like Marciano, Joe Frazier, Joe Louis, Sam Langford, right, Jack Johnson, Jack Dempsey. We're talking about smaller fighters. So you say, how can
modern day cruiserweights for sure, yes.
Right. But so you start to say to yourself, how would a 6'9", 270 guy do against a 6 foot guy who's 200 and less? Would those guys dig into the body, get on the inside, and chop Tyson Fury down? Because we're talking about great fighters. These guys, all those smaller, great fighters who didn't just lean on size. But that's the better argument. And that's what's interesting about Fury is you can put him against these other great heavyweights and say, that's an interesting matchup. And some of them I would pick him against, some of them I wouldn't. But here's where it falls apart for Fury is when we start to talk about who's greater and we look at resumes. Because when we're talking about who's greater on these all-time lists, we're comparing all of them together. Okay, so right, everyone. And the better argument doesn't necessarily work because, as all of us on this panel know, as boxing fans, there are examples. Boxing is littered with examples of fighter A beating fighter B, but fighter B is greater overall than fighter A. Boxing is littered with those examples. So when we look at Fury's resume, it's too thin to compare to the guys I just named: Sam Langford, Jack Johnson, Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, Joe Frazier. I can name 20 guys. His resume is too thin to even compare to these guys. It doesn't. And when we talk about historically what guys like Langford and Johnson accomplished as well, on top of that, it just doesn't compare. So that's where it falls apart for Fury. Now, when we talk about the interesting debate to me is this era, because the problem with debating who's better of this era is nobody gives a concrete example or a specific timeline of what the era is, right? for me, this era of the heavyweight is after anything that happened after Lennox Lewis's reign. So it's the Klitschko era on. So when we start to talk about who's the best fighter, best heavyweight of this era, it's an interesting debate because Vladimir Klitschko was so consistent for a decade, right? Mm-hmm. It was championship and then mandatory after mandatory after mandatory, 2 to 3 fights per year. He was consistent. Although he bored us to death, he was so consistent. And then Tyson Fury comes along, beats him, but he has this couple of years of inactivity where he just goes dormant. All right. So he makes up for that by beating Deontay Wilder. Many of us feel 3 times. And then he beats Dillian Whyte, who to me is a good fighter, never was a great fighter. I didn't see anybody picking Dillian Whyte except the gentleman who was on your show last week, who said he was going to be the undisputed champion. Other than that, nobody was picking Dillian Whyte to win this fight. So he was supposed to win this fight. How Tyson Fury can separate himself from Vladimir Klitschko is to become undisputed. That's something Vladimir Klitschko didn't do because he refused to fight his brother. Some of us think he should.
It's his brother. He loves his brother.
We're not going to get back into that, but that's how he can separate himself. D-style. To me, and I brought this up on the podcast earlier, and me and Boxing Historian had a conversation about it in the chat. Sort of is, to me, Tyson Fury walking away now, and I don't believe he's going to walk away, but let's assume he does. It's like an author ending the book a chapter too early. It's like you have an undisputed fight on the line next. You can fight in front of almost 100,000 in Wembley again. Yeah. And he just made $33 million fighting Dillian Whyte. Imagine what he makes fighting Usyk or even Anthony Joshua if he can pull off that upset.
But I want to put you on the spot though. I'll bullshit aside. Muhammad Ali, Tyson Fury, both in their prime. Ding ding. Who wins?
Ali. I can't pick against Ali. Ali finds a way. He finds a way.
What about Larry Holmes? Larry Holmes versus Fury.
I said that earlier. I would pick Larry Holmes. I would.
You know what's funny is that it's like this, right? Like if Otto Wallin cut this dude and gave him some problems, well, what makes people think like Larry Holmes couldn't do it?
True, but I also think that Otto Wallin was a bit of an off night in him fighting down the competition. I just think that Fury. Fair enough. I think Fury's one of those guys who rises to the level of competition. The bigger the fight is, the better he gets. And I think he's proven that. The thing that's interesting,
Ali, same thing.
Right. But the thing that's interesting is what makes Fury different when we do these mythical matchups than a Vladimir Klitschko is Vladimir Klitschko showed early in his career you can touch his chin, and those guys would have touched his chin. Like, imagine George Foreman fighting Klitschko. He would have touched the chin. Fury has shown that he has a hell of a chin. He went 25 rounds with one of the biggest punchers in boxing history. Now, Wilder can't set up his punches like those guys, but he can still crack, right? And he got to Fury's chin. So Fury matches up historically on these mythical fights. The problem is the greater thing. Like, it's hard to tell because his resume is so thin, right? These other guys are proven against other great heavyweights.
That's the thing. Like
what great heavyweight is on Fury's resume? But
it seems to me that every time Fury has a tough match, it was an off night, or it was. But like he doesn't even have that much data to go. Like if he's having off nights and he's
33 fights and
he only has 33 fights. I mean, come on. Bro, like imagine having more than that,
right?
Like I'm just saying, but brings me to this. I'm glad all 4 of you here are on, and I want to relate it to this a little bit. So let's come back to, we can argue about who would win hypothetical matchups all day. No one's going to be right. You know what I mean? Anyway, 83% voted that Whyte would not lay a glove on Ali. By the way, I just want to put it out there. I don't think he hits Ali. I just don't. I think
his victory.
He fucks up. Dillian Whyte's too slow. Hey, Kyle, I don't know if you heard me, Kyle. I was saying it reminds you of that new episode or whatever from from the 2000 Chronic, a song. Remember the video?
Oh yeah.
Like just smoking
Hold
weed all
up.
slow. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, D-Style,
Yeah.
wait, you're talking about matching him with Ali of all guys.
Well, I gotta go
Who would
there.
he beat in that era? Is he
Nobody.
beating Ron? Is he beating Ron Lyle? Hell fucking no. Is
Man.
he beating Jerry Corey? Hell fucking no. Is he beating I don't know, Jimmy Young?
I think
Jimmy
he's in the
Stockton.
mix, though. I think he's in the
No.
mix.
I don't think
Dillian
so.
Whyte?
No,
He's in the mix. He would have to be in the
Oh, I was
mix.
talking about Tyson Fury.
If
think
the
a lot of
higher the level of opposition, the better you compete. He would.
I was just never high. I was just never high on Dillian Whyte.
I just know this, like if he almost got knocked out by Steve Cunningham, right? He would have early losses in his fucking career in that era. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, you're talking about Fury. Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
thought you were
was
talking about
Whyte.
Dillian Whyte.
Oh yeah, I didn't quite. No, bro, I didn't ask if he would win. I said if he would lay a glove on him.
Oh,
mean,
no.
I think listen. I think that I think Joe Bugner versus Fury would be a better matchup because Joe Bugner can box on the outside. They both would be boxing on the outside. Me personally, I think that Joe Bugner might edge out a decision.
You know what gets me though? Like people will be like, Ali struggled with Ken Norton. And I'm like, well, Ken Norton was a good fighter.
Ken Norton was
His offspring's playing in the fucking NFL. Like, what type of athlete do you guys think these dudes were? Or what? Like, these were superior athletes, bro. These
I
were
think
really we're talking about cream of the crop athletes participating in the sport of boxing. Tyson Fury was facing a failed basketball player that picked up boxing and fucking Wilder. That's just the fucking truth. AJ's a failed fucking sprinter. Like, I'm sorry. Okay, spare me. He ran 11 some. Not bad. You know what I mean?
Wilder's a good fighter though.
I'm not saying he's not, but when I hear people say, "Oh, come on, he's so with Ken Norton," you know what I mean? Like people say that like if it's like a bad thing or something. Like Ken Norton was a good fighter, dude. You know that's my point.
Not good. He was great.
He was a great fighter, exactly. And the only reason I mentioned his offspring in the NFL, I'm trying to put in perspective for people, right? How good of an athlete Ken Norton was. Like I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Bro, Ken Norton. Oh my God, man! Ken Norton could do. Listen, you talking about the full punch package? He had great uppercuts. He had a great left hook. He had a great jab. He had a great overhand right. He had a very good defense. You guys of this era talk about defense all the time. He had a great fucking defense. He can move. He can box. He can box on the inside. I mean, Ken Norton? Ken Norton's come on, man.
Shout out to Mr. Boxing Today too. And by the way, I'm not shitting on Fury. I think Fury is a great fighter. We're comparing him to the all-time greats. Like that's all. That's not a bad thing, by the way. When a fighter comes along, and I'll let you respond, Calix. But when a fighter comes along, and then he's so good and so dominant in his era that we need to step out of his era to start comparing him to all-time greats. That's not a bad thing, right?
Right.
Fury's just as good as Jerry Cooney to me, man. He's him and Jerry Cooney probably in the same.
Go ahead, Calix. Go ahead.
No. I think the fair debate is of this era, which I consider everything after Lennox Lewis. So it's Klitschko's consistency versus Fury beating him head to head, but a thinner resume. So Fury separates himself if he sticks around and becomes undisputed. And people aren't talking about this, but I think Fury's energy would be much different if Joshua had those 3 belts. I think there's something about Usyk he does not like stylistically. And if you watch him talk about Steve Cunningham, he says to this day, Cunningham was his toughest fight. I think he thinks he would struggle a little bit against a smaller fighter who could give him some quickness to look at. But I think also Tyson Fury, it would be an interesting conversation on, and we should have it one day when we talk about, we should all come up with a list of who we think the top 25 all-time heavyweights are. And that would be, because none of us have a list in front of us, but him against him in the 90s, Tyson Fury in the 90s, those would be interesting conversations as well. Because how would he do against good fighters like Tommy Morrison, good fighters in great eras? Right?
Absolutely.
Yo, real quick, I just want to make one point off.
Well,
of Cal's point.
right
Go
after the
ahead.
super chat, Slight Tendency says, "Stop the hate chat. Came timed out at Prime Ali's jab." Go ahead, Mario.
Yeah, listen, I just wanted to make my side of this, because I've already heard two people now say that he's avoiding Usyk, more of like a scared or like not wanting to, it would be a much different thing with AJ. But that's correct. That's correct. But I don't think it's for that reason. It's because AJ represents a much more lucrative fight. The risk reward factor isn't there with Usyk. And it's not that I don't think he wants to fight Usyk. And I think he is going to fight Usyk. I think if Usyk wins, he's going to fight him. I think right now what he's doing is he's trying to put everybody's back against the wall. Oh my God, Fury's ready to walk away from oh my God, he's ready to walk. He's not going to fight again. That's the fight we need. That's the most commercial fight out there. What do we do? Give him 75%. Give him 80%.
Leverage.
Whatever. Exactly. Thank you. That's what would have worked better than saying that whole thing. Leverage. That's what he's doing, I think, with this whole retirement talk. I don't think it's out of fear. I just think ultimately that AJ fight got fucked up and he's not happy about it.
Yeah. We're going to stay with the heavyweights here, but we're going to shift gears a little bit, right? I want to talk about this. It's just an interesting topic to me. So let me kind of lay the groundwork, and I'll kind of get the guys' thoughts on this. So back around 2016, these styles been here a while. I've seen the atmosphere on YouTube. I've seen it all. You know what I mean? Around 2016, there was the AJ fans and there was the Wilder fans. Okay. For those, just a quick kind of recap. Wilder, obviously, we all know he wanted a belt from Stiverne. Okay. Stiverne picked it up in a fight with Areola for the vacant belt. He beat Areola in the rematch, and then he fought Wilder. Wilder beat Stiverne in a decision, right? That was after Vitaly, obviously, vacated the belt. He retired. Klitschko lost the belt in 2015 to Fury, right? Mm-hmm. I did not expect that, but he did, right? And that's another thing. He was a big underdog in that fight, and I thought he would lose. He didn't. Fury, as we all know, ended up going AWOL. He was fat, and it was like nobody ever. I didn't even think he was going to return to the sport. To be honest with you,
depression, right? Drug issues.
I didn't even think he would come back and have a boxing match, much less like become heavyweight champion again.
Eating disorder,
right? Yeah. So there was that. AJ picked up the belt against like Martin, and then he unified against. Then he unified. I think they fought for a vacant belt, him and Klitschko, and then he unified with Parker. If I missed anything, I think I'm good there. So anyway, something happened with the fan bases. The Wilder fan base and the AJ fan base started beefing. They started going to war with each other, right? For a fight that never happened. Like I want people to picture that. They were hating each other. Friendships ended. Like, they were calling themselves all types of names over a fight that never happened. Okay? So the fight didn't happen. Parker was in the mix for a while, but whatever, right? So anyway, something interesting happened, right? Because I don't know if you guys noticed that there was a group of fans that were saying that Whyte was going to give either A, give Fury a hell of a fight, right? Or B, beat Fury. Because Fury's been fighting Wilder, and Wilder hasn't fought anybody. You know what I mean? Like, Wilder's been fighting in the B League, like the AFL back in the day. You know what I mean? Like he was fighting like what's below the Premier League in soccer. Like he was fighting like in that league. You know what I mean? That's where Fury's been. He's been fighting that dude, and he had a trilogy with him. Whyte's been fighting speaking of Whyte, the big white sharks. Whyte's been fighting the Parkers and the Povetkins and the Chisoras. Like that's who he's been fighting. You know what I mean? Those were the big. And if you listen closely, they were saying things like Whyte beat a former world champion and Parker, and he beat more top 10 guys. He has a better resume than Wilder. He's better. You just don't know it. And I remember thinking to myself, this is crazy. How can he possibly like? What do you mean? Like this dude's gonna win? They didn't break down the fight. They didn't tell me how he was gonna be Fury, right? All they did was tell me that he had a better resume than Wilder. Therefore, he's going to give him either a better fight than Wilder or beat Fury, right? So I want to ask you guys. It's like because White fought basically all the leftovers of AJ. We keep it real. Like, I'm not trying to be an ass or nothing, but that's what he did. He fought all of AJ's leftovers, and that gave him a better resume than Wilder, right? Like that's pretty much what I heard. But what makes we already know Charles Martin's not better than Ortiz. Ortiz knocked him out, right? So let's leave him aside. Brazil, Wilder beat him a lot faster than AJ did, but let's put that aside because it's a common opponent. But what makes the Povetkins, the Whites, and I know I'm forgetting some, like the Takums of the world, right? What makes them better than Ortiz, and Stiverne? Well, why is it that we just got to assume that the guys AJ beat are the top tier elite heavyweights, and the guys that Wilder beat were not? Like, why do people feel that way? And say he just came on here, Joe Habib. I want you to answer that question for me.
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I just keep telling everyone, and I've told you this several times, this is not the heavyweight era of the 90s, and it's not the heavyweight era of the 70s. So these guys, you had the big two for a while, like you said before. You had Joshua and you had Wilder, and then Fury came into the scene, and you had the big three. Everyone else below that, they're all very similar. I actually think Ortiz is better than Povetkin. I think Ortiz would have beat Povetkin. I think Ortiz would have beat Dillian Whyte. Now he's a little bit older, but I just think Ortiz is a very good fighter. I thought that he could punch, and I thought that he had great boxing ability. I thought he was a good counterpuncher. I thought he was a very crafty southpaw. I think he would have given Joshua fits. So if I'm going to be honest, I think Ortiz is good, is as good, if not better, than anyone Joshua has faced, outside of Klitschko. But that was an older Klitschko. So, when you take Klitschko out of the mix off of Joshua's resume in terms of name value, there really isn't a standout on that resume. I mean, Joseph Parker, he's a good fighter, but he's more or less a belt holder, right? So, we saw Dillian Whyte, what Dillian Whyte did to him. I just think, we heard that Dillian Whyte was going to be a tougher fight for Fury than Wilder was because he was supposed to be a better skilled boxer. He had better boxing skills. He was more seasoned. He was more technically sound. This is a guy that had 7 amateur fights. Wilder went to the Olympics and won a bronze. I think I'm not going to sit here and say that Wilder is Sugar Ray Leonard. Don't get me wrong. But the Wilder detractors really diminish how skilled he is. I mean, he outboxed, Romain Stiverne, right? And Wilder has a very underrated jab. I think he has a good jab. I think he's got a good right uppercut. I think he's pretty quick on his feet. I think he's a better boxer than Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte is probably a better inside fighter, but Dillian Whyte came from kickboxing, and in kickboxing they don't necessarily square up, but they kind of stand in almost like a diagonal stance. They don't stand in a traditional boxing stance because they have to have that back foot further up front so they can throw the power kick, right? And if you watch, Dillian Whyte really has bad footwork for boxing. He's constantly squaring up, and that's why he got hit with that uppercut. I think Deontay Wilder has much better footwork than Dillian Whyte. I think he's got a better jab. Obviously, he's got a better right hand. Dillian Whyte is a decent body puncher, but again, he lunges a lot. Once he gets frustrated and he gets desperate and he gets overly aggressive, he gets sloppy. And then he throws one punch at a time. He comes at you squared up, and he just wings power shots. So, I mean, when you look at the current crop of heavyweights, he's definitely a top 10 heavyweight, but I just don't think he was as good as everyone said he was. Like, oh, he's the 4th best heavyweight in the world, the 3rd best heavyweight in the world. I just wasn't seeing all that.
All right, Calix, what do you make of it?
Well, I agree with Beeb that to me it's been a big 3 for a while, and everybody else under is a level below. The troubling part to me, and this may or may not answer your question, but the troubling narrative to me is that the 3 Fury wins are 2, against Wilder don't hold up as much value because there seems to be this narrative spinning off that Wilder isn't a great heavyweight of this era and didn't belong in that top 3. And he does. I mean, to me, right now, he's number 3 behind Usyk. I got him Fury, Usyk, Wilder, and then Joshua right behind those guys. I've said for about 5 years now, I think the 2 best heavyweights were Fury and Wilder. Those 2 guys faced off, and I had Joshua as a clear 3 behind those guys. And I think that's held up. I still feel to this day Wilder knocks out Joshua. So the special thing about Fury is he beats guys at their own game. So he beat Wilder at his own game in fights 2 and 3. He stepped on the front foot. He bullied the bully. He sat on his punches. And he also beat Klitschko at his own game by outboxing him. But people do this revisionist history stuff. They forget that, as B pointed out, Wilder beats Stiverne at his own game. There were a ton of people picking Stiverne to beat Wilder going into the first fight. Yeah. And guess what? Wilder beat him by out-jabbing him for 12 rounds.
And I want to cut you off, Kelly. Just a quick reminder. Stiverne knocked out Chris Arreola twice. Stopped him twice. Ruiz couldn't do that to an old Arreola.
And Wilder beats him by outboxing him in the first fight and then destroys him in the second, but just completely annihilates him. So I think people need to drop this thing where just because a guy isn't technically skilled, like Wilder is not technically skilled. Like, he's not this technical boxer. He's falling all over himself. But all you need is one great tool. He is better at the thing that he does great. He's better at it than everybody else. The right hand. It's the equalizer. It doesn't matter. So, yes, maybe White is more versatile than Deontay Wilder. Doesn't matter. As soon as Deontay Wilder touches his chin, it's over. It doesn't matter. He's going to evaporate him. So it just doesn't matter to me. So still to this day, if Wilder comes back, it's a big 4 now for me. It's a big 4. Still, it's Fury, then Usyk, then Wilder, then Joshua. Those are the 4. And imagine if Joshua loses to Usyk, which I think he will. I don't think he can beat Usyk. It's still Wilder versus Joshua is still a super fight over there. It's still a super fight. Everybody's still going to want to see it. But everybody beneath that 4 is beneath him right now. It's a drop-off. Even with the younger guys coming up right now, it's still a drop-off.
Hey, TBH, what are your thoughts on, Whyte's resume, just in general? Do you think it was a little overblown?
Yes, he was a little overblown. I believe that I think he's just another UK, Euro hype job. I hate this, I mean, no disrespect to the UK fans, but he's just another hype job. I mean, and like Joey Beeb said, he's a kickboxer. And, look, Vitaly was a kickboxer too. Vitaly was a kickboxer. He was an amateur kickboxer. And guess what? He had a hell of a career, did he not? So I can't even really say, he was a kickboxer transitioning to boxing. He's just, he you know what? That's on you. That's on you at the end of the day. If you have the ability to become something great, then it is what it is. Now, as far as the heavyweight division, there's 3 things, and I will add a fourth thing: power, chin, and a jab, regardless of your reach. If you have those 3 things, you can be very good in the heavyweight division. As far as Dillian Whyte, he's outside of the top 10. He really should be top 15 at the most, because I think that Joe Joyce, Hrgovic especially, I think that Frankie Sanchez and my guy Jared Anderson, who's going to be the best guy up in there, are way better than him. I even think that Michael Hunter's better than him. I think that a couple other guys, Ottawa Lean, is better than him. You understand? Dillian Whyte, he's a brawler with no chin. And if you're a brawler with no chin, you're going to get knocked the fuck out. And how many times been knocked out since then? Several times.
3 uppercuts.
3 uppercuts. And by the way, really quick, side tendencies. Whyte lost because his walkout suit was too heavy. Amaro, give us some quick thoughts here, man. Do you think that Whyte's resume was like? Let me put it this way: the people saying White had a better resume than Wilder. Do you think they were a little off base? A miscalculation there?
I think that it was a miscalculation because they're pretty similar when you look at it. I mean, I think you can give Wilder the nod for Luis Ortiz being the best fighter that either of them beat. And that's fine. But guys, we got to remember, like, Wilder didn't really step up his competition until like 2018, 2017. Like, you know, you go through his list of big name wins. I guess you're going to call, you know, attention to Areola, Spilka, you know, Stiverne, Molina, Malik Scott, like Audley Harrison. Like, these are the kinds of names that exist on that resume. And then you go to White's resume, right? And it's not a whole lot different. You know, Robert Helenius, I think that win counts a little more these days than it did back then. Derek Chisora, you know, is a solid mainstay on win on this thing. Joseph Parker is a perennial top 10 heavyweight of this era, and he's got him. So it's like you can play this game back and forth. The truth is, what I've learned in my 35 years on this planet, however long I've been a boxing fan, is these things are never settled unless they're in the ring. You're not going to sit here and tell me that you know for a fact that Wilder beats a White. I mean, or a Joshua. Like, you can't tell me that. And I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying you can't sit here and tell me that. Like, even throw Joshua's resume into those two mix like y'all did earlier, and you can make the same arguments. Like, I can sit here and dissect all these guys, right? You know, Chisora, you know, he loses to White. He took Usyk the distance, and, you know, it's probably the most vulnerable Usyk has ever looked in that fight. So, you know, you can come and play this game, but ultimately these guys have to fight. If they want to be really considered top whatever, they have to beat these guys. Let's look at Cal's list, right? Usyk and Fury. You know what they've done that those other guys haven't? They beat Wilder and they beat Joshua. That's why they're there. If you have a win over Wilder, Joshua, or Fury in the last 5 years, it means something. Bottom line.
You know, one thing, real quick, and you bring up a good point with Joshua, and I've checked myself a bit on this because I haven't been as high on Joshua because of the chin. But one thing I got to give him credit for is he has the toughest strength of schedule in that division. He's fought him. He's fought him. So, I mean, if somebody has him 3 right now, I'm not gonna.
It's so good that White got his leftovers, and like people were saying it was better than Wilder's resume.
Right. He's got a strong strength of schedule.
But I want to go to Beep about this really quick, and you could add to this if you want, Beep, whatever it's on your mind. But I want to add this. I want to ask you this question because people want to know what the Beep thinks. Where do you put Tyson Fury? Not accomplishment wise, like head to head against the all time greats. Go ahead.
I think he's the best of all time, hypothetically. And I don't care if people can say whatever they want. I just think he's the best of all time. Hypothetically, does he have the best resume of all time? No. 6'9", moves around the ring like a gazelle, can fight you on the outside, the inside. He'll win any way he has to win. Here's the thing. Look at Lennox Lewis, right? I love Lennox Lewis. Arguably the best heavyweight of the modern era, right? But when he got knocked down by McCall, when he got knocked down by Rockman, the fight was over. When Fury gets knocked down by Wilder 4 times, he gets up and he wins.
Weekend at Bernie's too. Boop.
That's
right
it.
Back up.
He gets up. Lennox Lewis did not. Couldn't finish. Right? Ali, I love Ali. Lost to 2 smaller men in Joe Frazier and Ken Norton, who were slower than him. Those guys don't beat Fury. Leon Spinks doesn't beat Fury.
Agreed.
Sorry.
But these we need to say, because people are gonna say, "Oh, this is crazy." Like I said at the beginning, there's a difference between greater and better. Better is head to head. Greater is the full resume.
Exactly.
Better. So you can make that argument that we just made isn't crazy. Like, it's not crazy. He's 6'9", 270.
You can't watch that Wallen fight and then say, yeah, that guy beats Holmes.
Easily.
No.
Easily.
No.
Easily. Yeah.
I'd take Holmes. I would take Holmes.
I got Holmes all day.
I think I got
Remember-
Fury. I'll be honest.
Remember when Ali used to grab guys behind the head and pull their head down?
Yeah.
How's he going to do that against a guy who's 6'9"?
Doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. He didn't do that against Foreman.
Holmes
He
lost
took
to,
a
Holmes
beating
lost
for like 9 rounds. And
Holmes lost.
can't do that against
Holmes
Fury.
lost to Michael Spinks twice. A light heavyweight.
Yeah, that was at the tail end of his career.
Ah, come on. There is no tail end.
Yes, there is a tail end.
Hey,
There is no
hey,
tail end.
The Pacquiao that lost to Ugas is the same that beat. No, I'm just kidding.
no, man. Oh, Joe, man.
Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry.
Come on, man.
Mistake,
I'm
dude.
not saying. I'm not
This is
saying
classic
he didn't have a chance.
Tyson Fury's going to be 34 in a couple of months. He's no spring chicken.
That's fine.
Here's the
But-
thing.
But he took some years off, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
that's
they
not
weren't
bad.
good years.
I
Like,
will say this though: 34 is not bad for heavyweight. That's actually like prime, still in your prime type years.
Holmes was like 30, 34, 35 when he
Yeah,
lost.
but
to Spinks
Holmes was
twice.
an active heavyweight. Like this,
Doesn't
it's
matter.
different.
Fury was an
Of course, it
addict.
matters.
Fury has damaged his body with cocaine, alcohol, and
For
he's
sure.
coming back from obesity.
Dude, he might as well be 57. I mean,
Like-
with the amount he ate.
The amount of damage he did to his body,
Guys, Ron.
he's hypothetically 60 years old right now.
Oh, you know how many guys back in the 80s? How many heavyweights back in the 80s was on cocaine?
That's
All I gotta say is this, right?
not Fury's fault.
He's
That's
too
not Fury's
slow.
He can't do an
He's
intervention.
too
He can't do an
slow for
intervention on that.
Holmes. He's too slow for Ali. I'm
Around
sorry,
the ring
Beef.
like a gazelle.
Hey, Beef, he's too slow.
Did you see that uppercut on Saturday?
He's not slow,
I-
D-Style.
Oh, no,
I
compared
timed
to
that
Ali,
uppercut.
he is.
I timed
not
that
slow.
uppercut, right? I
Compared
timed
to
that
Ali, he's
uppercut.
really slow.
I had, in order for me to see that uppercut, right? I had to rewind it and do it in slow motion. I couldn't see it in real time.
Like when he hit,
I couldn't
like,
see it in real. It was like this. Boom!
remember that shot that he countered? Like I think it was in the third round to Wilder. Like he winded up and then he just threw it and hit Wilder, and Wilder like spun in the air. Like that was slow.
The problem with Ali was this is the problem with Ali. He lost a lot of speed as he moved up in weight. He was getting heavier and heavier and heavier. When he was like 208, 212, he was a lightning bolt. But then when he fought Frazier,
His ball was too
started-
fast.
he got up to 220,
Your
225.
eyes can't hit. But your
He
eyes
started
can't see.
slowing down. That's why he had to do the rope-a-dope. The legs were going.
Move.
I mean, how
Joe,
many years was he out, too, at
wait,
that
Joe,
point?
I got
He
you.
wasn't
I got you.
fighting a puncher like he's never fought a puncher like Foreman, bro. I don't want to hear Wilder. Wilder's a one-trick pony compared to Foreman. Okay, like, I don't even want to hear that shit.
No, but
Okay, as a
Joe,
hold on real quick. As a talented puncher, I get that. But if you're gonna talk about the single punch itself, like he ranks, I agree with you. But how many punchers are how many punchers are Foreman? Like, I'm sorry, I just feel like that debate is two different things. You know, you want to talk about who is better at dishing out punishment. Foreman, I agree, but you get hit with the one single Wilder shot. Like, he wasn't great. It's just that was the whole point
Like-
to him.
Because like it's easy to look good against these dudes. It's easy to look good against White. Can you imagine? Hey, Beep, come on, be honest. Be honest. Who wins, White or Ali?
Ali.
All right. So like, and how he would embarrass White, right?
why are we even talking about White Ali?
The reason I'm saying that so he could
He
come.
said, "I'm not gonna ask
I
that
want
question."
to understand
question.
that there's levels to
White
this.
fought in Ali's era, he would not be mandatory. Let's just get that right out of the way.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with
All
that.
right.
Okay, we're making some sense right there, Joe.
Well,
Good job.
I'm
Guess
slow.
what?
I'm getting to.
Guess
I
what?
gotta work my way up. I can't start with
Fury,
Fury. I
guess
gotta
what?
start with White. I
Guess
gotta.
what?
So-
Fury would be the champ if he was fighting on Ali's day. 6'9",
All right.
moving around like a gazelle.
Now,
Both of them,
Calix
southpaw,
says
inside,
that.
outside.
So
He can
according to
wrap you up-
Calix,
wrap
according
you
to
up like
Calix,
a grappler.
Fury's as quick as Lomachenko. He's fast. He can barely keep up.
He's a
Like, you know
lightning,
what I mean?
didn't see
he's a
that.
lightning bolt.
I don't think he's that. He's fast compared to these dudes. He's fast compared to White.
D-Style,
Dude,
his
And
Well,
speed.
we-
Ali, and Ali,
Hold on, hold
and
on.
Ali is
I'm gonna
fast
let you
compared to
respond.
Joe Frazier.
I'm
Ali
gonna
is
let you
fast compared
respond.
to
But
Joe Frazier.
when White started
Not
throwing
real-
his
oh, yeah.
hook, right? Like
How fast is Joe Frazier? I heard,
Joe
I heard-
Frazier's faster than anybody that Fury's fought. That's for damn sure.
Not faster than Deontay Wilder. Footwork wise. They could line up and do a 40. I can guarantee you Wilder would beat Joe Frazier in the 40-yard dash.
Oh,
No.
for sure.
Guarantee you.
100%.
Here,
Even Calix can agree with that.
D-Style, you're on mute. I don't know if he knows he's on mute.
Unmute yourself.
Oh, my bad. So anyway, I kept
ready.
thinking, why are you guys being so rude, talking over me right now? Like,
Let me ask you one question. Answer this one question, and I'll shut up for like 10 minutes.
so Fury's fighting a guy, right?
Let me ask you this one question real quick.
Go ahead.
Let's line up Deontay Wilder, Joe Frazier, Ken Norton in a 40-yard dash. Who wins?
Oh, Ken Norton.
Deontay Wilder.
Nah, I think Deontay Wilder.
Deontay Wilder will blow him all the way.
Bro, he got them long legs,
He's
dog. Like,
Deontay Wilder is
So
an
what?
athlete.
Somebody has
You
long
see him on the
legs.
bench? You see
He's got
Deontay
long
Wilder on the bench?
legs. What does that mean?
450? Frazier couldn't
Yo,
do
he's
that
a-
450.
Michael Johnson would have
explosive.
long legs, and he
No
won
way
a fucking
Frazier does that.
tournament. What does that
See-
mean? What do you mean nothing?
Frazier
Bo
couldn't do
Jackson
that.
didn't have long legs. Like, come on.
Ali
What I'm saying.
has
But let me
fat-
say this. Like, he just fought a guy, right? He just fought a dude that wrote him a letter saying, I'm going to throw a left hook. He folded it. He put it in the envelope. He licked it. He sealed it up.
That's
And
an
he sent it
embellishment.
by mail, not first
an
class, by the way.
You're
Not
embellishing.
first class mail, just regular mail,
That's hyperbole.
right? Fury received it. He opened it. I'm going to throw the left hand. That's how much time this dude had to know that Dillian Whyte to throw the fucking hook, right? He was missing by a mile. Shout out to all Dillian Whyte fans, by the way, that were saying that you could see Wilder's right hand coming from a mile away. You could see Dillian's white punches coming from the moon. Okay.
Look what Mr. Boxing Today said. He knows. Mr. Boxing Today, I seen him do a two-handed tomahawk.
I
He
didn't
knows
say
about-
Frazier.
He knows about
I
athletes.
said Norton. I
He
said
knows
Norton.
about athletes. He knows about athletes. Two-handed tomahawk, Mr. Boxing Today did.
Yeah, but
He's in
Mr.
his-
Boxing,
he's in his
he's
30s.
biased towards basketball players. So
He's
is
in
Calix,
his
by the way.
30s.
You see, Calix and Mr. Boxing, they have a special place in their heart for Wilder because he's a former basketball player. That's what that is.
Look,
Okay, so
wait. People are undervaluing going 25 rounds with one of the greatest punchers in the heavy of all the heavyweights. Like, dude, I don't care that he doesn't have anything else in the toolbox. Like, he was
Jab, Calix. He got a good jab.
eviscerating guys, and then Fury gets knocked down to him 3 times in 3 fights.
Four, Calix. Four.
Right, and he goes 25 rounds. So the chin holds up against anybody, in my opinion. Maybe not George Foreman, but his
Even
chin
George
holds
Foreman,
up against
Calix, even
anybody.
George
He knocked Dillian White's tooth in the air. Did you see that too? So he has punching power. I don't agree with Beeb that he's the best ever. I don't agree that he beats Larry Holmes. I would take Larry Holmes. I would take Ali. All I'm saying is it's not crazy to think that this guy can hold up with all of the great
I agree
heavyweights
with that. I agree
head
with
to
that.
head. Head to head.
I agree
I'm
with
not saying the greatest because that now we're talking about resume, and Fury's resume is too thin. It's just too thin. But
Well,
don't undervalue going 25 rounds and beating, because he did it 3 times, beating Wilder 3
Tell him,
times.
Calix. Tell him. School this kid.
Don't undervalue that. But I also have to say, when we're talking about current fighters, these guys didn't go 15 rounds like those other guys. So when you're talking about a 12-round fight, if that's what we're talking about, those guys are going to be fighting at a faster pace than they did back in the day when they had to go 15 rounds.
Hey, Calix, I got a question.
go ahead.
who-
By the way, historian, come on. A 5'7" Langford does not beat Fury.
A 5'7" Langford will dance circles around the slow.
I don't even know if he beats Canelo, bro. I don't know about Fury.
Canelo would beat the shit out of Fury if
let's
he
go
was
down.
with the heavyweight.
Oh,
You
come
know?
on, he's not.
Let's go down the list.
Yeah,
Let's go down the list of fighters. Fury versus Tyson. Who wins?
Fury.
Tyson would break that motherfucker's rib cage.
I got
so
Fury.
hard.
I got Fury.
I think
Let's go around the
Fury's too big.
But Calix doesn't want to say it. Calix, you got to say something. You got to say
Fury
a
versus
word.
Tyson.
Man.
Calix.
And you can't say Tyson either. Mike Tyson or Tyson Fury? You can't say Tyson. I said Tyson. I'm right.
That's tough.
Joe Frazier would destroy that man's body. He would crumble in the 7th round.
All right.
Joe Frazier's knocking the shit. He's
No,
gonna knock-
but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Historian, you don't think he beats Hey, TBH, you don't think he beats anybody?
I don't know.
Tell me an all-time great he beats. Just one.
It is. You know what it is?
One all-time great. No, he doesn't beat Joe Bugner. He doesn't beat Oscar
No. Maybe
Bonavide.
one he does beat.
That's nostalgia. That's nostalgia.
No. Okay, who
That's
does he
nostalgia.
beat? Okay, what top guy? He can beat He can probably beat Henry Cooper, maybe.
Does he beat Tommy Morrison?
Does he beat?
Yeah, he does.
That's a 50-50 fight.
Go ahead, Beeb. What do you say?
I'll tell you all the guys. He can beat all of them. I think, in my opinion.
Well, name another one.
Here's the guys he definitely beats: Joe Frazier, Ken Norton, definitely beats those guys. Michael Spinks definitely beats him. Riddick Bowe beats him. Lennox Lewis, chin problem.
I'm not sure about Riddick Bowe. I can't just give you Riddick Bowe. I think that was a little tough.
He lost to Holyfield. Another guy he beat.
So what if he lost? But he also knocked out Holyfield. He's the only guy to knock out Holyfield.
Joe Frazier, bro. I mean, he beat Joe Frazier. No, listen, Joe Frazier feasted on boxers that move.
Riddick Bowe,
everybody, he defeated every guys that were faster, who had better jabs, that actually can box and move. Bugner, Jimmy Young, all those. Ali, he gave Ali the best boxer of all of them. Hell.
I love this panel, man. Everyone's like different opinions here. But name somebody else, Beep. Who do you got?
I'll tell you some guaranteed victories, in my opinion.
Oh man, go ahead.
Frazier, Norton, Liston,
Jerry
those
Corey.
are guaranteed. Floyd Patterson, Rocky Marciano.
Historians say
those
Corey
are guaranteed victories. Ali,
I'll give you Marciano.
Ali would be a 60-40 for Fury, right?
But what did the mob get to Fury though? You know, the Russian mob. The Italian mob.
Lennox Lewis would be 55. Like Fury would be 55-45 against Lennox Lewis.
Dude, not 60. Even with the mob, because then he would have Killahan come and be like,
"Oh, that's right, that's right."
I would go 55-45 Lennox Lewis over Fury.
Okay, you know, let's go more.
I would handicap Batista. I would handicap 75-25 Ali over Fury. I would handicap Foreman 75-25 over Fury as well. I think Foreman beats Fury easier than Ali would beat Fury.
Okay, let's do this.
Holmes is like 55-45. I'd handicap.
Yeah, it is a good fight. But let me do this. So let's not. Okay, fine. Let's go in modern heavyweights, right? Because that's the era we have closer like connection to. What about Vitaly Klitschko against Fury? I'll start with you, Pete.
Fury.
Man, you don't want to think about it for a little bit, all right, Mario.
Oh man, I think I'd actually go Vitaly right now.
Ooh.
It's nostalgia.
I think he struggled against Vlad. Here's the thing, right? Like he didn't look great against Vlad, and I thought Vitaly was better than Vlad. Like Vitaly's prime, you know what I mean? So I don't. That's a tough one.
Okay, TBH, Vitaly or Fury? Prime.
Vitaly outboxes this dude to unanimous decision.
Nostalgia.
All right, Calix.
I've always felt like Vitaly was better than Vlad, clearly. And the rumor has it that Lennox Lewis retired earlier than expected, so he didn't have to do the rematch. So Vitaly has clout. It's 50-50.
Well, what's he better than Vlad? Because he's the older brother? Is that just because he's the older brother?
I would lean Vitaly like 51-49.
Yo, younger brothers get no credit. Like, you know what I mean? This shit's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, a younger brother is tougher than an older brother.
Vitaly himself said Vladimir was a better boxer than him.
But, yeah. So, all right. Now, here's a good one. Back to you, Beeb. Lennox Lewis versus Fury. How do you see that fight? Not just who wins, but how do you see it?
Well, first of all, the fight's going to start from the outside. It's going to be a perimeter type fight, right? Lennox Lewis is going to probably be the aggressor. I actually see Fury being the counterpuncher in spots in this fight, right? Switching to southpaw. And I think when Lennox Lewis steps in with the 1-2, I think Fury's going to knock down the jab, catch the jab, and shoot the straight left. Then he's going to switch back to orthodox, grab Lennox Lewis by the head, right uppercut, knocks him out.
Okay,
That's
man.
how I see it. Lennox Lewis. Problem with Lennox Lewis, man. Little chinny. I'm sorry. I love Lennox Lewis. Little
But it's
chinny.
gonna take him serious, though. It's just like taking him serious, Lennox.
Well,
Damn. Okay, Mario.
Fury's going to take him even more serious than his version of serious. How's that?
Yeah, I think that Lennox Lewis is like the perfect kind of guy to not fall into the Fury trap that we've seen. But I right now I still have Lewis. I think Lewis beats him. I think Lewis. I love it, dude. It's hilarious.
I love doing that.
I'm going Lewis.
TBH, what do you got?
So you're telling me we're talking about Lennox Lewis,
Fury, yeah.
If you ask
Fury? I mean,
if you ask him if an
mind you-
8th grader would beat Fury, he'd pick the 8th grader right now. He's just not going to.
For
He's
sure.
not giving. He's not letting Fury get any clout today.
Now,
man.
the 8th grade has to be from the 1800s, so you know. Like,
and think of this though, the Lennox Lewis, I would consider a top 5 heavyweight who's damn near unbeatable
I got one for you.
for certain guys.
Fury
Like,
versus Johnny Depp. Who wins? You're gonna pick Johnny Depp. You're gonna pick Johnny Depp. I know you are.
well, Fury shit on his bed or no?
He's picking Amber Heard.
listen. Lennox Lewis, if he come, Lennox Lewis can outbox him with his jab, his superior jab, mind you, or he's landing that clean right cross and he's dropping that tub of lard, 6'9" tub of lard fat ass to the ground, and he's gonna be sleeping on the ground, and he ain't getting back up. And if he gets back up, he's gonna get dropped again with another right cross, and his ass ain't getting back up.
Okay, all right.
All right, one shot, 5-6 round KO for Lennox.
Hey, Calix, I remember we had a debate, and I said Fury's a top 5 heavyweight of all time. That was my argument. But who do you got, Fury or Lennox Lewis?
I would take Lewis close, but you got to remember we're talking about all-time great heavyweights, and you're making me think about it hard, which solidifies Fury as an all-time great somewhere
Great
on
point.
the list. But
Great point.
the reason we're thinking about it is I don't see any of these guys knocking Fury out. So it's all going to go to decision. And you're talking about a guy who, like I said, he can become whatever he needs to become in a fight to
That's a great way to put
match up. So it's these are all going to be close decisions.
Fair enough, yeah.
But I would take Lewis.
Like, I think the best way to ask this question is like in a simulation that they fought 10 times, who would come out on top more times, right? Because I think they're capable of beating each other. I will say that. Like Fury
Definitely.
beating Lewis isn't out of, like, I would favor Lewis, but I wouldn't be shocked like if he beat Lewis either.
Mhm.
You know
That's
what I
a
mean?
good way to put that.
But now we're gonna kind of run through this really quick. Speaking of Fury, now we're not gonna be talking about Tyson Fury, but Tommy Fury, right? Tommy Fury, he looks pretty good with a guy with a pretty good record. You got to admit. Do you still favor Jake Paul against Tommy Fury if they were to fight?
Jake Paul will destroy him.
You gotta be loyal to the Fury clan. Come
Can't
on,
do it, man. Can't do it. If Tyson
Fury won't let him lose. to
Tyson
Jake
Fury
Paul.
was sitting right next to me right now, I'd say Tommy would win. But other than that, I'm not going to say Tommy's going to win.
That's it. You don't think Tommy has a shot against Jake Paul?
No, Jake Paul's a
He
killer.
looked good. He
Jake
looked
Paul's a
good. He looked solid. Calix, who do you have winning? Tommy Fury, Jake Paul.
I got to
Yeah, I know. We're going from like all these all-time greats to like Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, but it is what it is.
Jake
We
Paul's
got-
a murderous puncher. You don't underestimate that.
Who do you got, Calix?
Tommy Fury is not good. I mean, he's
He
afraid
looked
of him.
good. The guy had a winning record. You guys wanted to see
No
what
offense, no offense, but Tommy Fury is Tyson Fury's half brother. They're half brothers.
Oh,
He only
man.
got,
Why
he
Why
only
you
got
trying
half,
to disown him like that?
he only
Like,
got
come
half
on.
the genes. He only got half
Look,
the genes.
Well,
B-Style, there's a reason the fight didn't happen. And it's not because of an injury.
he just beat a 10-1 dude.
He beat a 10-1 dude.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
This 10-1 dude beats Jake Paul.
I was 10-1 when I was in middle school.
No, not on Box Rec.
I'd take Jake Paul, but
Oh, come on.
I'd take Jake Paul over Tommy Fury.
He
I
hates.
would.
He hates. Jake
Mario,
Paul.
who do you got? Tommy
hates
Fury,
Jake
Jake Paul. He beat a 10-1 dude.
I think that Tommy Fury is half Fury, half Jerry Forrest. That said, I do think that he did look good. I agree. I think he did look good. I think, though, it's going to be hard to beat a Jake Paul right now on the scorecards. And I don't think Tommy stops a Jake Paul. Not right now. So, yeah, I would probably favor Jake in that fight. Betting-wise, I would.
Okay. Historian. I know we're going from like talking about all these all-time greats to this, but who do you got?
Well, you know what? I mean, before I even give my answer, I mean, it doesn't take much to be a good cruiserweight nowadays. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just look at the champions. I mean, Akali's your best guy at cruiserweight. Missing me with that shit, and Makabu.
He's an Olympic.
You could probably find somebody off the damn street and teach him how to box, and he probably could beat his ass.
Makabu would like beat Jake Paul and then skin him. You know what I mean? Use this like and everything.
But that's how bad the cruiserweight division is. Tommy Fury.
Tommy Fury has that Fury gene. How do you go from like B went from like this dude's an all-time great to like his brother can't even beat Jake Paul?
He's only got half the genes.
That's a good question. Well, I'll say this though, on a objective mindset, I believe that Tommy Fury, what I saw was a very polished boxer in comparison, mind you, in comparison to Jake Paul, who can't box to save his life, who's fighting all kinds of guys that he has no business being in the ring with. I mean, MMA fighters that can't strike to save their life, and you're fighting basketball players and shit.
Beat Nate Robinson.
Yeah, oh man, I feel bad for Paco, man, because it's like
Woodley's
trainer up here, but hey, it is what it is. But my thing is, look, Jake Paul can't box, Tommy Fury can box, and that's the difference. If they were to match up, he would beat the shit out of Jake Paul, and Jake Paul would get knocked the fuck out, and Tommy Fury ain't even all that good.
That's nostalgia.
Man,
what's nostalgic about Jake Paul?
I don't know. Last Saturday could be nostalgia. Hey, so really quick. So a lot of content creators here on YouTube have been making some wow videos saying that Crawford is getting some help from SNAC now, you know what I mean, to prepare for, because he's trying to prepare for Errol Spence. I don't know if they know this. He's always been with SNAC, right? But what do you guys make of it, B? What do you make of it? Is that nostalgia too? Or what?
Oh, man. These conspiracy theories, man. I mean, this is like TMZ shit all over again. I don't know, man.
It takes 3 seconds to like research if he's been with SNAC already.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, so what is he taking? Amino acids? I mean, what's wrong with that? Drinking a couple protein shakes? I mean, he's doing what any regular Joe could do. Go to vitamin shop, get the animals.
Fred does a video. He's like, oh, he's really scared of Spence. I mean, he hired Victor Conte and SNAC to help him out.
Oh yeah, I mean, that metrics bar is going to turn him into freaking Superman, right?
Hey, so what do you think, brother? Really quick, what do you think? Brother?
I think it's a joke.
Historian, what do you think, brother? Really quick. What do you think of the insinuations pretty much that he's juicing up to prepare for Spence?
I mean, but it's crazy. I mean, I've heard stories of Spence juicing up, so I mean, this dude.
Oh, don't start the nipple stories, please.
No, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, they've been.
Oh, what are you talking about nipples for you? This is a family show.
Because they're saying, oh, Spence's nipples are proof that it's juicy. Like,
I mean, look. I'm not. You know what? I'm not going to.
Who analyzes that? Like, oh, look at his nipples. Like,
I've seen guys at weigh-ins having fucking. I've been seeing guys at I've seen guys at weigh-ins looking like, what the hell? You got to be on some shit. Now, listen. I think it's a bunch of these Errol Spence fanboys. There's a lot of them. There's 1,000 of them on YouTube. It's like it's like a damn brigade in the army. I mean, the whole militia of them guys on YouTube that's sitting up here talking about Terrence Crawford getting with Victor Conte or getting with SNAC. SNAC, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I question certain of their practices, but is there something substantial to go off of? No. And until somebody gets caught, they never took it, right? So let's just leave it at that, because those guys that are saying that shit are most likely the same militia that I'm speaking of, and your boy has been accused of shit before. So I would not, and you would say, well, you can't prove it.
That's what they're using as evidence, is nipples. They say nipples look too juicy or some shit. That's what they say.
But, I mean, but that's what they've been saying this since 2016,
that's
17.
Like, it never occurred to me to inspect the nipples to see the juicing. It never occurred to me.
This, you know about gynecomastia, right?
I don't know what that is. What's that?
Gynecomastia? Yeah, gynecomastia.
What is that?
Okay. I mean, when
a man takes steroids and he develops female breast tissue,
right?
From the steroids. It's called gyno.
Yeah. Hey, but Calix, what do you make of it? Apparently, Crawford's really he's feel the pressure. He's got to get ready for Spence, so he hired SNAC. He's already been with SNAC, but they're making videos saying he hired SNAC. What do you think?
I don't know. They're trying to get clicks. But what I'll tell you is, remember when we ran the story, we found out that Eric Morales was taking stuff, and we ran with the story, and we broke the story, and didn't get credit for it, by the way, but we broke the story. And not only did we break the story to the world, I remember calling the New York State Athletic Commission and breaking the story to them, because either they didn't know or they pretended not to know that Eric Morales had a positive A test weeks before. All right. So somebody was sweeping this positive test under the rug. And we've heard other rumors of other fighters getting tests swept under the rug. So what I'm saying is, everybody throws out these accusations, but my stance on this for years has been, what's going to happen if these guys test positive? They're either going to get swept under the rug, or people are going to forget about it 5 minutes later, and they're going to continue with their careers. Boxing has guys in the Hall of Fame that they're inducting in the Hall of Fame that got busted, and nobody cares. So my whole thing, and on top of that,
unless you're certain writers that didn't vote in James Toney because he got busted,
right? It's inconsistent. But my thing is, there comes a certain level when these guys are making so much money. They're making so much money that they're either going to pay somebody off, or they're getting past the drug testing, because the drug testing hasn't evolved as quick as the cheating has. Blood transfusions, all these other stuff for guys to skate around the testing, that just hasn't evolved fast enough. So we're doing this drug testing and we're accusing guys of cheating, and we'll never know. We'll never know who's cheating, who's not. We may get lucky and bust one of these guys every once in a while, but I guarantee you a lot of this stuff is getting swept under the rug, and or guys are getting past the drug testing one way or another. So it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Oh, all right. So anyway, the real topic, and we'll end it with this one. So Spence did around 250,000. That's the word. There's some content creators out there saying he did 500,000. We'll just ignore them, because that's not what he did. But 250,000. Which, look, I'm not going to say it's terrible, but it's not like. Does that mean is it really 60-40? Is it more like 52-48? I think the sense I get. That's me. But with these numbers, does it really show? Is he really this big A side guy that should be like? Should negotiations really be that harsh or tough in this fight to make this fight happen? But what do you think?
Was it 250 or 240?
I saw 240.
I'm rounding up, so.
Oh, you're rounding up.
I'm from Texas. I want to give Spence all I want to hook him up all I can.
Why don't we just say 250, 252?
Okay.
I have the feeling they're going to agree on 50-50. I'll be honest with you, or maybe they're going to go 45, whatever, or maybe they'll go 45 and have the winner get at 10% extra.
I don't want to interrupt you, but Fury White they put a pot for the winner, so it's
$4
not
million
impossible.
for the winner.
Yeah. I would be honest with you. I don't think these negotiations are going to be as tough as people think they are. I think that both guys want the fight. I think they realize that it's probably going to be each guy's last fight at welterweight. I think both guys will probably move up after this fight. So I don't think it's going to be that hard to put together. I think worst case scenario for Crawford, it'll be 60-40. Best case, it could probably be 45, and the winner gets the 10% on the top. I think because of the significance of this fight, they're even talking about putting on. I think it's September, on the same day that the Hearns Leonard fight was. It's going to be like on the anniversary of their fight, right? So this is really going to be a special event. And I think PBC is going to really get behind this. I have a feeling Crawford's going to probably work with Richard Schaefer and Probellum, and Probellum has been doing some stuff with PBC. I just think this whole thing is going to be pretty smooth, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be that tough to put together.
You're really optimistic about
Very
this,
optimistic about this. Very optimistic about this.
Like, I'm kind of worried about how optimistic you're. Like, it's almost like you never watched boxing before. Like, you're new and you're optimistic.
It's my first year.
That takes something. Calix, what do you think, brother?
I agree. I think it gets done. Call me optimistic as well. The thing I don't like about the side pot is you're really putting a lot of faith in boxing judges, because if it's a close fight and a guy's going to give $4 million when he didn't deserve the $4 million, it's a tough pill to swallow. So I don't think they're going to do a pot thing. I don't care how they get it done as long as they get it done. But it's tough to know what is a good pay-per-view number these days, because first of all, they don't report the real numbers from what I hear. And second of all, like look at Crawford's numbers. Crawford's numbers were diluted because you had to have ESPN Plus to order the pay-per-view. So that knocked his numbers down. So it's tough to say what he's deserving of when you compare and contrast. And then Porter, but you also have to throw in Porter's a bigger name than Ugas in America. So it's just tough to say, but it's also tough to say what is a good, solid pay-per-view number these days. But I just hope it fails. I've said even the pay-per-views I buy, I hope they fail. And I've gotten flack for that. I just want the pay-per-view model to be blown into smithereens. I would love to see it shoot up in the sky, blown to smithereens. I hope all the pay-per-view numbers fail going forward. But I also hope that Crawford versus Spence, they can make the deal. And what I'm interested in seeing is, does Crawford have to sign a multi-fight deal with the PBC in order to get the fight done? Because I said at the end of 2021, I didn't think the fight was going to get made in 2022. So it looks like there's a good chance I might get that wrong, because I thought he was going to have to sign a multi-fight deal, a 3-fight deal with PBC, and get Spence on the back end of that deal. But it looks like possibly he could get Spence on the front end of the deal. We'll see. But I still think he's going to have to sign with PBC to get it done.
But we have a poll up: Spence 60-40, Spence 45, Crawford 45, winner 10%, 50-50, or Spence 70, Crawford 30. That's the poll.
70-30. Whoa.
And right now 50-50 is winning the poll. Second place is 45-45 with 10 for the winner, and then 60-40 is third. Historian, you give us your do you think Spence is the big A side that is being made out by a lot of the Spence fans?
No. I mean, the only thing you say, well, he has 3 of the 4 belts. Okay, whoop-de-fucking-do. These pay-per-view numbers, it should speak volume, which there ain't no real pay-per-view star outside of maybe 1 or 2 guys. And it happens to not be Spence and Crawford. One guy did 190K. The other guy did 233,000, which is what's reported. That's not a huge gap. Make the fight happen. Make it 50-50. Both guys bring something to the table. They both bring great wins and prestige to the table, and an undisputed championship to the table, You know what Wilder and Fury did is what they should do. Whoever wins get that the bigger piece of the pie. Do it that way, because you guys ain't gonna obviously not gonna have a rematch, and you guys are doing this to set yourself for life, pretty much. So get it done. You know what I'm saying, and be fair on both sides. Make it half, man. You know, and winner take all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, man, I just don't think could you negotiate the lion's share? Probably. I just don't think it's 60-40 like a lot of these Spence fans are making it out to be. That's just my personal opinion. It's negotiable and they can make a deal happen. And to be honest with you, 50-50, I think is more than fair. But if he wants to feel like get 52%, I don't give a shit. I think 45-10 for the winner is more than fair. They're both very confident they can win, right? And if you're Spence, like, hey, it's on your platform, it's on PBC. Why wouldn't you take that offer? 45-10 to the winner. Hey, Beeb, go ahead and tell everybody what's going on Thursday, brother, before we sign out.
Well, Thursday we'll be doing the roundtable on Ringside Reporter Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We got a really good list of topics, and we got a pretty decent panel as always, and we're gonna have some fun. There
you go, man. See you guys on the roundtable on Thursday. I want to thank Calix, TBH, Beeb, Mario, all for coming on. That is the show, guys. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing. We're out of here. Peace.
Nostalgia.